So you've heard of Bitcoin, right? It's one of the most talked about and maybe most misunderstood technologies out there. But it all started with a simple 9-page paper published back in 2008 by a total mystery figure. And what that paper did was propose a really radical solution to a problem that's been bugging the digital world for a long, long time.
So let me just ask you this. How do you send money to a friend online without using a bank or PayPal or Venmo or any of those guys in the middle? For pretty much the entire history of the internet, the answer was, well, you couldn't. Not really. Let's dig into why that is.
To really get Bitcoin, you first have to understand the problem it was created to solve. And that problem has a name. It's called the double spend problem.
Okay, think about a file on your computer, like a photo. You can copy it, email it to 10 friends, post it online. You can make 1 million copies, and they're all perfect. Now, what if that file was a digital dollar? What stops you from emailing that same dollar to 10 different people? That's the double spend problem in a nutshell. Physical cash doesn't have this issue, right? Once you give someone a $20 bill, it's theirs. It's gone from your wallet. But digital stuff, it's a whole different ballgame.
For decades, the only way around this was to have a trusted middleman. You know, a bank. When you swipe your card, your bank checks its big private ledger, sees if you have the funds, and then moves the money. They are the referee, the single source of truth, making sure you don't spend money you don't have or spend the same money twice. But there's a catch. This system costs money, you have to trust that central authority, and sometimes they can even reverse the payment. So, how do you build a system that gets around all of that? Well, in late 2008, this anonymous person, or maybe a group, who went by the name Satoshi Nakamoto, dropped an idea on the world that was, well, pretty radical.
This one sentence, right from the original Bitcoin paper, is basically the entire mission statement. And the keywords here are proof instead of trust. The big idea was to build a system where you don't have to trust a bank or a company. Instead, you can trust in cold, hard, verifiable math, cryptographic proof that everyone on the network can see and agree on.
And this wasn't just some theory that sat in a drawer. No way. Things moved fast. The paper comes out on Halloween of 2008. Just 2 months later, boom, the first block. What's called the Genesis block is created, and then, only 9 days after that, the first real transaction happens between two people. The system was officially live.
All right, so how does this whole thing actually work? How did Satoshi pull it off and solve that double spend problem without a bank? The answer is this absolutely brilliant invention called the blockchain. Let's get into the nuts and bolts.
Let's walk through it. Say you want to send some Bitcoin. First, your transaction gets shouted out to this giant global network of computers. These computers, or nodes, start gathering up a bunch of recent transactions and bundling them into a block. Now this is where the miners come in. They all start competing, racing to solve a super complex math puzzle tied to that block. And whoever solves it first gets the prize. They get to add their block of transactions to the official public record.
And that public record? That is the blockchain. The easiest way to think about it is like a giant, shared digital notebook. Everyone on the network has a copy. And about every 10 minutes, a new page gets added. That's a new block of transactions. But here's the magic. Each new page is cryptographically sealed to the one before it, creating a chain of blocks that's incredibly hard to break. This is the secret sauce. This is what makes it so secure. Because all the blocks are chained together. If you wanted to go back and change an old transaction, you'd have to redo the math puzzle for that block, and for every single block that came after it. And you'd have to do it faster than the entire rest of the network, which is adding new blocks all the time. To pull that off, you need more computing power than almost everyone else combined. It's basically impossible.
So, you see, this whole system didn't just solve a technical problem. It actually created a whole new way of thinking about what money even is.
Let's just put it side by side, okay? Traditional banking is centralized. The bank is in charge. It's based on trusting that bank, and their ledger is private. Bitcoin is the total opposite. It's decentralized. No one is in charge. It's peer-to-peer. The ledger is public for all to see. And it's not based on trust, it's based on that cryptographic proof we talked about. It's just a fundamentally different blueprint for how money can work.
And here is another huge difference. This number, 21 million. The code that runs Bitcoin says that there can only ever be 21 million Bitcoins created. That's it. Unlike regular currencies where a central bank can just decide to print more money, Bitcoin has a fixed supply. It's predictable and it's finite. And that's why you hear people call it digital gold. You know, it's interesting
Because over the years, the way people see Bitcoin has really changed. It started out with this clear vision, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. But now, some people see it as a way to store their wealth, like digital gold. Others treat it as a high-risk investment. And for some, it's a vital tool to raise money in places where the normal financial system just isn't an option.
So, all of this brings us to the million-dollar question, or maybe the 21 million Bitcoin question that everyone is still debating. Is this thing just a massive speculative bubble waiting to pop? Or is it truly a revolutionary technology that's laying the foundation for a whole new financial world? Honestly, nobody knows for sure. But now you understand the elegant, powerful system that Satoshi Nakamoto designed, and that's the first step to figuring out what you think it all means.